Welcome to Revenge Was Peace. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comment.
I thought he was proposing to me. Turns out, he was humiliating me. If you'd asked me that night, I would have told you I was living a dream. Standing on the beach in my ivory dress, champagne fizzing in crystal glasses, the gentle waves humming in the background. Daniel on one knee, eyes sparkling with tears, holding a diamond ring in front of me. It was everything I'd ever imagined, and I was completely unaware that the whole scene was nothing but a cruel joke. Daniel had always been the perfect gentleman, the kind of guy who remembered your favorite things, who left little notes around the house saying, "Thinking about you." He knew exactly how to sweep me off my feet, especially because I'd spent my life feeling overlooked. I was used to living in the shadows, mainly my sister Laura's shadow. Laura was the golden girl of our family, effortlessly beautiful, magnetic, and always praised by our parents for everything she did. Growing up, whenever I accomplished something, it was always overshadowed by Laura's bigger, better achievement. Got straight A's. Laura got straight A's while volunteering at a shelter. Landed my first big job. Laura was suddenly promoted at her company, and everyone talked about how she'd made it. I learned to live with it, but the ache never fully went away. Daniel felt like the universe finally noticed me. He was charming, attentive, and unlike everyone else, seemed completely indifferent to Laura. It was refreshing, or at least, it was convincing. The proposal happened on our third anniversary. Daniel surprised me with a romantic weekend at a secluded beachside cottage. He'd arranged everything, rose petals scattered around, candles softly flickering, and even a secret photographer to capture every magical second. Daniel whispered, "I never want to forget this night." And I felt like, for once, someone really saw me. But there was something I overlooked in my blissful state. Something important. The photographer had been recommended by Laura. 2 weeks later, Daniel gifted me a beautifully crafted engagement album. Thick, glossy pages filled with candid moments from that evening. Each page carefully annotated by Daniel with captions like "Our forever begins here," and "You are the love of my life." It was so sweet that I decided to take it to our weekly family lunch to share my joy. As everyone gathered around the table, flipping through the pages and cooing at each photo, something strange caught my eye. It was subtle at first, just Daniel's gaze in some photos, never directly at me, always slightly off to the side, as though someone else was there, someone capturing more than just a moment. I brushed it off, laughing at my own paranoia, until I turned another page and felt my heart stop. There, in one of the photos, Daniel was holding my hand, but his eyes weren't on mine. They were fixed beyond me, with an intimate, secretive smile I'd never seen on his face before. A look reserved for someone special, someone not me. My stomach tightened, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. My family was still chatting happily around me, oblivious, as I frantically scanned the photos. And that's when I noticed another detail, something that felt like a gut punch. In the background reflection of the window behind us, barely noticeable unless you knew what you were looking for, stood Laura. Her expression mirrored Daniel's, an intimate, knowing glance, returned silently. My breath caught painfully in my throat. The laughter and chatter around me felt suddenly distant, muffled, as if I was underwater. Across the table, Laura casually sipped her wine, unaware of my sudden revelation, or perhaps just confident I'd never figure it out. Daniel placed his hand on my shoulder, smiling down at me. "Babe, everything okay?" I forced a smile, feeling numb, betrayed, humiliated. "Yeah, I'm fine," I whispered, closing the album gently. But inside, rage and devastation swirled, threatening to drown me. That night, alone in my room, I carefully examined every photo, every caption, every detail of the album Laura had so generously recommended Daniel create. Each image was now a piece of evidence, a silent betrayal meticulously documented. They had humiliated me, turning my engagement, my happiest memory, into a sick game. But they underestimated one thing. I wasn't the same quiet girl who'd spent her life hiding in Laura's shadow. Not anymore. If they wanted to turn my engagement into a cruel joke, I'd ensure the punchline was unforgettable. And my first move? I smiled coldly to myself, turning the page once more. They'd given me all the proof I needed. Now, I'd make sure the world saw exactly who they were. Wish I could tell you I flipped that page and confronted them right there in front of everyone. But the truth is, I froze. My throat closed up, and my hands started to tremble so hard I nearly dropped the album on the floor. No one noticed, or maybe they did, but decided to pretend everything was fine like always. I excused myself and walked to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I pressed my back to the cold tile and forced myself to breathe. My heart was beating so fast it felt like it was trying to escape my chest. I kept telling myself there had to be some explanation. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe Daniel was just looking past me at the photographer. Maybe Laura just happened to recommend him because she wanted to help. But deep down, something broke in me that day. Some blind trust I'd been clinging to, like a child clutching a blanket full of holes. After that lunch, everything felt different. I couldn't unsee the way Daniel's gaze had drifted past me in that photo, so casual, so familiar, like he'd forgotten the camera was even there. Over the next few days, I started to replay every little moment in my head. Every awkward pause. Every time Lara and Daniel shared a glance I hadn't thought twice about. And once I started looking, the memories flooded back in ugly, humiliating detail. There was the night we hosted a barbecue in our backyard. I'd gone inside to grab more drinks, and when I came back, they were sitting together on the steps, talking in low voices. I remember Lara laughing and touching his arm. When she saw me, she jumped up so fast it looked rehearsed. I teased her about it later, calling her overdramatic. She just smiled. Then there was the text Daniel once received late at night, just a single heart emoji with no name. He'd mumbled something about it being a friend, and I'd believed him, because I wanted to. Because believing him was easier than facing what it might really be. One memory hurt the most. 2 months before the proposal, I'd caught Lara wearing one of my sweaters. She said she'd borrowed it because it was cold. But it wasn't just any sweater. It was the one Daniel had given me for my birthday. The one he'd said looked so perfect on me. Back then, it felt like a harmless mix-up. Now, it felt like a warning I'd ignored. That week, I started gathering small pieces of evidence. I wasn't sure yet what I was going to do with them, but I knew I needed to see everything clearly, even if it shattered me. I went through Daniel's old messages whenever he was asleep. I checked his photo backups, his email drafts, his rideshare receipts. Some nights I thought I was going insane, snooping through every detail of his life like a paranoid stranger. But then I'd remember that look in the album photo. That look wasn't innocent. It wasn't friendly. It was the look of a man who thought no one was watching. The first undeniable proof came 3 days later. I was scrolling through Daniel's email when I found a booking confirmation to plane tickets for a weekend in a cabin up north. The departure date was 2 weeks after our engagement trip. The reservation was under Daniel's name and Lara's. I sat there for almost an hour, staring at the screen, feeling my stomach twist in ways I can't describe. My first instinct was to scream, to call them both and demand an explanation. But something held me back. Anger was easy. Fury was natural. But I didn't want them to see me raging. I didn't want them to know they'd broken me. Not yet. If they were going to betray me, I would make sure they regretted every second. I printed everything, the receipts, the emails, screenshots of their texts. I slid them into an envelope and hid it inside my closet, under a box of old photos. Then I closed Daniel's laptop, wiped my tears, and made dinner like nothing had happened. That night, as he kissed my forehead and told me he loved me, I smiled back. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I wasn't going to confront them. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I was going to watch them dig their own grave, one careless lie at a time. Because sometimes silence is the most powerful weapon you have. And if they thought I was just going to wait around for them to confess, they had no idea how far I was willing to go. I started playing a part. The quiet, trusting fiancé. The slightly naive sister. The girl who smiled at dinners, laughed at jokes, and pretended not to notice the way her world was crumbling. It wasn't easy. There were nights I would curl up in bed, listening to Daniel breathe beside me, and feel this bitter acid crawl up my throat. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him awake and yell, "How could you?" But I didn't. Instead, I whispered back, "I love you too," and waited. Lara didn't make things any easier. She kept texting me like nothing had changed. Random photos, makeup recommendations, a meme she thought I'd laugh at. It was all so normal, like she wasn't sleeping with the man I was planning to marry. One afternoon, she even dropped by unannounced just to hang out. She sat on my couch, legs curled up like always, sipping iced tea while we talked about wedding plans. She suggested vendors, venues. She even offered to help organize the bridal shower. I nodded through it all, every cell in my body screaming. I'd already printed the guest list by then, and Lara was on it. I wasn't planning a bridal shower. I was planning something else entirely. Here's the thing. If someone's going to destroy you, the least they owe you is a good performance. And I was going to give them one they'd never forget. The next few weeks were a blur of details, fake confirmations, fake updates, carefully staged enthusiasm. I created a shared wedding folder, filled with mood boards, timelines, fake invoices. I even hired a planner, using a friend's email and a stock photo as her profile picture. Daniel ate it all up. He was more relaxed than ever, more affectionate even, as if betraying me had lifted a weight off his shoulders. Or maybe, deep down, he thought he was untouchable. Meanwhile, I was talking to a lawyer. I wanted to make sure I wasn't legally tied to anything in his name. No joint accounts, no co-signed debts, no shared property. I also made sure my name was removed from anything that could be used against me later: utilities, subscriptions, even the gym membership he'd added me to as a gift. He didn't notice a thing. The final piece of the puzzle came from an old friend of mine, Carla. She used to work in hotel management, and she owed me a favor. When I told her the name of the cabin resort Daniel had booked with Lara, she didn't even hesitate. She pulled up everything: the dates, the room type, the meal plan, even a note Daniel had left asking for a romantic fireplace setup. They were scheduled to check in on a Friday afternoon. I scheduled my bridal shower for that same Friday night. Everyone would be there: our families, our mutual friends, even his boss's wife, who adored me and loved to gossip. I sent beautiful invitations. I ordered catering. I had a custom cake made, with little fondant figures of a bride and groom, and a sister in the middle. I also prepared a slideshow, photos from our engagement shoot, cute moments from vacations, and near the end, a little surprise, The photo from the album. The one where he was holding my hand but looking at Lara. Right after that, I'd flash the cabin confirmation. The emails, the receipts, then I'd thank everyone for coming and leave. It was cruel, petty, maybe even a little dramatic, but it was mine. That week, I barely slept. I kept rehearsing every step, every word. What if someone warned him? What if Lara backed out? What if they didn't show up at all? But then, they made it easy for me. On Thursday night, Daniel said he had to leave early for a work trip. I smiled, handed him his overnight bag, and kissed him goodbye. Lara texted me that morning. Won't make it to your shower. Something came up last minute. So sorry I didn't reply. I stood in front of the mirror that night in my white dress, hair done, makeup soft but precise. I looked like a bride, but I felt like a storm. I looked into my own eyes and whispered, "Let them burn." I had the room, the slideshow, and every receipt ready to go. The only thing left was to let everyone see exactly who they were. The venue was perfect, clean, elegant, nothing over the top, just soft lighting, muted flowers, and background music that sounded like something out of a calm wedding video. People started arriving right on time, friends from college, Daniel's colleagues, a couple of my cousins, and even my mother, who always said I was too emotional to be trusted with big events. Funny, that night, I was the calmest I'd ever been. I greeted everyone with a smile. I thanked them for coming. I offered wine, made small talk, complimented outfits. I was warm, polished, radiant even. Because nothing scares a liar more than the silence of someone who knows the truth and isn't screaming. The cake was placed on a silver table near the front. 3 layers, white roses, and those little fondant figurines I'd requested. The groom and bride held hands, but a third figurine stood between them, slightly turned away, wearing a dress that looked suspiciously like one of Lara's favorites. People noticed. A few guests chuckled awkwardly. One of Daniel's co-workers muttered, inside joke. I just smiled and said, "You'll see, at exactly 8:15 p.m. I tapped my glass and thanked everyone again. Before we cut the cake, I said, "I want to share something." A little trip down memory lane. I walked to the screen. The slideshow began. Soft music played as photo after photo filled the space, as on the beach, us laughing at dinner, him kneeling during the proposal. Everyone smiled. My mom looked misty-eyed. A friend whispered, "You two are perfect together." Then came the photo. Daniel holding my hand, looking past me. The same distant, intimate look I could never unsee. The room shifted. You could feel it. People leaned in, brows furrowed. The next slide, the cabin reservation. His name, Lara's name. Another slide, screenshots of messages. Can't wait to feel your skin again. Just pretend it's a work trip. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The room went quiet. Someone gasped. My aunt dropped her fork. I walked back to the mic. I wanted to thank you all, I said calmly, for being here tonight. Really. It means the world to know I'm surrounded by people who will no longer have to pretend they didn't see what was right in front of them. Then I picked up the knife and sliced the cake clean down the middle, separating the bride from the groom. Polite applause. Nervous laughter. But no one moved. One of Daniel's co-workers asked, "Where is he?" I smiled. "Up north, with someone who couldn't make it tonight." That was when the whispers started. Phones buzzed. You could hear the spread of scandal rippling like a wave. I excused myself, walked out of the venue, and took a deep breath under the cold night sky. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just stood there, letting the air hit my skin, reminding me that I was still here, still whole, even if everything else had shattered. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. First, a missed call from Daniel, then one from Lara, then a text. "What the hell did you do?" I turned the phone over and let it fall into my purse. I didn't know them answers. I owed myself peace. And for the first time in weeks, I could feel it coming. But Daniel didn't give up that easily. The next day, he showed up at my door with the most pathetic excuse I'd ever heard. He showed up looking like a ghost of himself, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in the car. Maybe he had. He stood at my front door holding a crumpled bouquet of grocery store flowers and a paper bag with what I assume was my favorite pastry, one he never remembered when we were actually together. "Please," he said before I could close the door, "just give me 5 minutes." I should have slammed it in his face, but I didn't. I let him in. Not because I wanted to hear him out. Not because I missed him. I let him in because I needed to hear, with my own ears, what kind of story he'd try to sell me. He walked in slow, like a child about to be scolded, set the flowers down, didn't meet my eyes, sat on the edge of the couch like it might explode. "I don't even know where to start," he began. I stayed standing, arms crossed, silent. He took a shaky breath. It wasn't serious. It was just stupid. I was confused. It only happened a couple times, and it didn't mean anything. I raised one eyebrow. He flinched. "You're not even going to ask me why?" he said, voice rising slightly, like I was supposed to be helping him through this. Still, I said nothing. So he kept going. "It was a mistake, okay? I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. Lara and she was going through some stuff. We were talking one night after that party, and things got blurry. But I ended it. I swear." My eyes stayed locked on him. "You booked a trip with her 2 weeks after proposing to me." He opened his mouth, closed it, swallowed. "That trip okay? That was bad. I panicked. I didn't know how to back out. But we didn't even sleep together that weekend. I swear to God. I felt sick the whole time. That was his grand defense. He felt bad. I could almost laugh. You were going to marry me, I said, voice low, while sneaking around with my sister. And you're standing here telling me you felt sick? I didn't mean for it to go that far. It always goes that far, Daniel. People don't just trip and fall into betrayal. He stared at me, stunned into silence. For once, words failed him. Then came the real kicker. I want to fix this, he said. We can go to therapy. We can work through it. I know I screwed up, but we've built so much together. Please don't throw it all away over one mistake. I blinked. One mistake? He lied. He cheated. He humiliated me. He involved my own sister. And now he wanted me to repair what he'd destroyed, as if I owed him closure. I walked to the coffee table, picked up the envelope of printed evidence, and placed it gently in his lap. This is what you built, I said, and I'm not the one throwing it away. You did that yourself. He stared down at the papers, his hands trembling. Then I opened the front door. You should go. He hesitated. For a second, I saw that flicker in his eyes: panic, desperation. Maybe even a hint of the old Daniel, the one who used to kiss my forehead and call me his soulmate. But I didn't flinch. He walked out slowly, dragging his feet like a man walking away from his last chance. When the door closed, I leaned against it and exhaled. No tears came. Not then. The ache was still there, of course. The betrayal, the grief, the humiliation of knowing the people closest to me had treated me like an afterthought. But there was something else growing in its place. Clarity. Because that conversation, that pathetic attempt at justification, it wasn't closure. It was confirmation. What I didn't expect was a message I'd get from Lara 3 days later. And it changed everything. It came as a voice message, not a text, not a call. Just one of those shaky, breathy recordings people send when they don't have the courage to face your silence. 3 days after the shower, my phone buzzed while I was at work. I saw her name. For a moment, my whole body went cold. I didn't listen right away. I waited until I got home, took a shower, lit a candle, sat on the edge of my bed. Only then did I press play. Her voice cracked before she even said my name. I know you probably hate me, she began, and honestly, you should. I don't know how it got this far. She paused, exhaled hard. I swear to you, I never planned to fall for him. It started as a joke. He flirted. I flirted back, and it was harmless at first. But then things got confusing. You were so caught up in the wedding stuff, and he just made me feel seen. Seen. The word made my skin crawl. She continued, I know that's not an excuse. I'm not proud of it. I hated myself every time it happened. But he told me things, you know? He said you were always busy, always stressed, that you didn't really listen to him anymore. And I guess I believed it. I let myself believe I was helping him. I paused the message. Helping him? This wasn't guilt. It was justification wrapped in self-pity. I hit play again. I wanted to stop. I swear I tried. But he kept pulling me back. And part of me liked being chosen. I never thought he'd propose to you. I thought he was going to leave you. That broke something in me. Not because she admitted it, but because deep down, I think I always suspected it. The way she smiled at him. The little digs she used to throw into conversations, like, are you sure he's the one? Or he's cute, but he doesn't really get you. Does he? It was always there. I just didn't want to see it. The message went on. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I needed you to know it wasn't all fake. You were my best friend growing up. And even though I ruined that, I still remember everything we shared. She ended with a soft, I'm sorry. And the message cut out. I stared at the wall for a long time. I thought about the girl who used to braid my hair before school. The one who made up songs with me in the back seat. The one who held my hand when our parents fought downstairs. Where did that girl go? How did we end up here? I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. But the next day, something unexpected happened. My mom called me. I saw the photos, she said, her voice sharp. The ones you showed at the shower. I braced myself. Here it comes. I thought the lecture, the guilt trip, the plea to keep the family together. But what she said stunned me. You should have told me sooner. Silence. I knew something was off, she continued. The way he looked at Lara. But I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe my daughter could do that to her own sister. Neither did I. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize for all the times she dismissed me, compared me, made me feel like the shadow behind Lara's spotlight. But for once, she sounded like she saw me, and maybe that was enough. Later that week, I went to pick up the last of my things from the apartment Daniel and I used to share. He wasn't there. The key still worked. I walked through the space, touching nothing. The bookshelf he'd built for me, the half-empty wine rack, the wedding planning binder still open on the desk, like he thought I'd come back and finish it. I left the ring on top of it. No note, just the ring. And yet, the real closure came weeks later, when someone else sent me a message I never saw. It came from someone I barely remembered. A woman named Denise. We'd met once at a charity event Daniel dragged me to. She worked in finance, had a sharp laugh, and wore red lipstick like armor. Her message was short. Hey, not sure if this is welcome, but I thought you should know. He tried it with me too. Months ago. Nothing happened. But it was disgusting. You deserved better. I stared at the screen, heart pounding not from shock, but from validation. He'd been testing boundaries everywhere. I just happened to be the one who caught him mid-performance. I replied simply, Thank you. I know now. Then I deleted the message, not out of denial, but because I didn't need to keep it. I had enough proof, enough pain, enough past. That chapter was over. A few weeks later, I moved to a smaller apartment. Just mine. No shared keys, no silent agreements. Just white walls, soft sheets, and peace. My mornings were quiet now. I drank coffee on the balcony, watered my plants, played music without worrying if it annoyed someone else. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't some Instagrammable transformation with glowing skin and a brand new boyfriend. It was slow and real. Some nights, the memories still tried to claw their way back in the fake smiles, the whispered lies, the humiliation of loving people who saw me as disposable. But they didn't last long, because for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for anyone's apology. I wasn't rehearsing confrontations in my head. I wasn't checking my phone for damage control. I was just living. I never spoke to Lara again. I heard through the family that she moved away for work, that she was doing better. I didn't care. I didn't ask. Daniel tried once more. A letter, this time, long, dramatic, full of half-blame and poetic regret. I didn't read past the first line. I burned it, not out of rage, just because I didn't want to carry it into my next chapter. People ask if I regret staying quiet for so long, if I wish I'd screamed sooner, walked away earlier. And yes, part of me does. But the silence I chose in the end, it wasn't weakness. It was power. It was mine. I'm not who I was when this began. I stopped waiting for apologies. I stopped explaining why I was hurt. This chapter is closed.